start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Imagine standing before a breathtaking painting, your heart racing as you absorb the color, the brushstroke, the emotional captures on canvas. Now consider this: does knowing the artist's name enhance or diminish the experience? Now I stand firmly against motion in this house belief that anonymous art is authentic, the art of knowing creators. In my speech, I will outline why the identity of that art is not merely a label, an integrating part of an art itself. I will build the opponent claims and present two compelling arguments. First is that knowing the creators enriched our understanding and appreciation of artwork. Second, the context of an artist's life experience can add layers of meanings, making the art more authentic, not less. Now let's just the argument present my opponent. So why is it true that ultimately can offer our student freedom of bias? It not just provide a more authentic experience, we are engaged in art that we do simply consume in vacuum. We interact with it to lens of context, filter that clouds our view, rather than key to unlock deeper understanding. Ultimately, can labors us to provide our notions and also provide us to a rich chemistry of artist influence and influence that shape the every instance of the world work that we have. My first argument is knowing the creator's piece and art allowing us to engage with a deeper level. Art is often reflections of artist's experience, beneath and emotion. For instance, consider the reflex of Frida Kahlo. Her paintings are not just beautiful, they are deeply entwined with her pain, her dignity, and her political belief. Knowing that her arguments, her painting are struggles to triumph, and her art transform her perspective work, is a way to emphasize, to understand, and to connect with humans level. That mostly invites us to emphasize the understand and to connect with a human's level, the connection of field to knowledge and feels it created in beyond her art, beyond her own painting. Moving on is intertwine her identity to political beneath, knowing that Kahlo is part of his struggle and triumphs into her art transformed perspective of work, is invite us to emphasize, to understand, connected to her own level, human level, and connected to feel the knowledge of who created. It's add layer constantly that ultimately art simply cannot provide it. The context surrounding artist's life significantly contribute to authenticity in the work. Take Vincent van Gogh, for instance. So, as understanding his ultimately life, his battle with mental health, his quest for beauty and the world have been felt dark and chaotic, give us insight the emotional depth of his painting. When we know the creators, we can appropriately make it artwork itself by journey of artist's life. This kind of transform our experience from passionate observation to active engagement, making the art more authentic. We capture the struggle and triumph behind the creation of the scene. So this is how so they argue that ultimately allowed us to art to speak itself and is lead to more authentic experience. However, I contend that knowing the artist's identity does not attract the artist, rather it enhances our engagement with the comprehensions of the pieces. While true the personal bias may influence the perspective, the risk of context of artist's life struggle to essentially deepen our expressions and understanding of their work. So art is a reflection of human experience shaped by the artist's unique perspective. When we learn about creators' background, it's more crucial to cultural heritage, personal struggle, or historical context. We gain the insight of nuance and attractivity of artwork. Once knowing the piece of created during the political climate or respond to personal hardship can found us to more inspiration. This content can guide us to understand a deeper message, the emotional band within the art, making the experience unfade, enriching the engagement with ultimate art with lack of depth. So knowing that artists behind the work fosters in the community and ultimately cannot provide, artists are often drawn by the beneath identity and experience. Their name carries the weight and meaning. We engage to art of more authentic creators. We hold them accountability to the messages where they are enlightened to control it. This particularly relevant today's world. The art are power to influence the social movement and are devoted to critical conversation. Ultimately strike way to compatibility, allowing for inspirations from misleading and harmful without the growing artist intended beyond people, beyond artists and social of the world. So furthermore, that is a reflection of artist's life. Their experience, struggle, and triumphs. We know that creators and we gain the insight that yes.
So, as you say for your second point about context creates meaning, but if context is necessary, and you guys are judging the artist's life story instead of art itself, that's not art. That is basically another kind of things, which is definitely not art. How do you explain that?
Can you clarify that?
Alright, so basically your second point, which you are just presenting now, is basically, in summary, is about context creates meaning. So let me ask you, but if context is necessary, are we judging the artist's life story instead of the art itself?
So we gain the insight that the tensions behind the work. This context is illuminate theme, the techniques and message are overwhelmed connected. So for instance, let's consider the power works for Flora. So her identity is Mexican woman grabbing the physical and emotional pain, and there to her art will be lost for intimately. By understanding the creator, we can only honor the journey but also enrich our own exploration of the artwork. So furthermore, knowing the artist can enhance our engagement in the art. When we know the artist's background, struggle, and inspiration, then we invite to dialogues and transit for canvas. The connection fosters a sense of community and shared experience. For instance, the work of Vincent van Gogh is really deeply because we know his tumultuous life and passion for art, exposure, struggle, mental health, and empathy for exploitation. So this can strip away to relationship dynamic, which is the art and face in reality rather than conversation of living, breathtaking artist. So lastly, then let's consider the role of artist identity that fosters the cultural dialogues. Each artists bring the unique perspective and live experience into their work, contribute to rich tapestry of culture inclusion. Now, when we acknowledge the creator, when we celebrate the diversity and promote inclusion within the art, ultimately can erase the virtual narrative, reducing the art a mere object, avoiding the story and struggle, the birth in it. We miss out the chance to learn from different culture, history, and perspective, versus knowing that piece or create from virtual of art is illuminated and significantly encourage viewer to confront an affordable truth for society. So while my opponent argued that ultimately our art deliver us to bias, I contend that knowing the creator advance understanding, accountability, that appreciate our work. Art is dialogues between the artist, reviewer, and society. Let's embrace the riches that come from knowledge that only creators behind them as we admire. So thank you for listening.